We wanted to start with a very, very small review of what our center actually is and what we do, and then we'll talk about the research that we did. So the context in which we exist is basically private wealth in Russia has existed for only 25 years. So it's very recent. So now we're seeing this first generation of entrepreneurs that are in their 40s, 50s, and that are starting to think about what to do with their businesses, how to pass it on to their children, to sell it off, or to do what. And older service providers as well, who were trying to teach the best practices. So our basic priorities are entrepreneurial families and their successors, and older service providers. So single family offices, multi-family offices, private banks, and non-profit organizations as well.
Yeah, let's...
Oh yeah, you have a microphone.
Oh yeah, we are backed by Ruben Vardanyan, who is a public philanthropist and an entrepreneur himself. We have... Let's be very brief about this presentation and move on to the Wealth Possessors study we conducted. So practically we are a research and educational platform. We research the issues which have not yet been researched in Russia and try to provide educational programs for the families in business, their family members, all the service providers on different aspects. Here is a brief schedule for 2015. We have standalone programs and we incorporate them into degree programs as well. We have a series of researchers. We did a so-called Wealth Possessors study last year. In 2014, we conducted interviews with 39 wealth possessors in Russia, trying to find out what they think about succession of their business, of their wealth. Are they going to leave it in the family? In which form? Are they going to sell the business, or will family dynasties in Russia actually appear? Because absolutely everyone, all of them are in their first generation. So we are trying to find out what their own attitude to these processes are. And in practically every area, our main purpose is to check best practices which are in the world and try to adopt them to Russian realities. We also conduct a series of conferences and events, with a major event in November of each year, Wealth Knowledge Day, and a series of roundtables on various issues. We are looking forward towards consulting and mediation, and we are also presented in several governmental expert groups, trying to influence the legislation and regulation formation regarding new instruments, regarding assistant business and so on. So this is very briefly our calendar for 2015, and let's move on to actually the results of this study. I had a great question from a colleague here. Why don't you call this study family business study, as they do actually everywhere? And why your center is called Wealth Transformation Center, not a family business center, as it is usually called in universities? The answer is, and business school, the answer is that we actually do not have family business in Russia. As it is all in the first generation, it is hard to say whether it will become family or not. And the very first step in this regard is to find out what the actual wealth possessors think about what they are going to do with their businesses and wealth. So that's the main purpose, to adopt solutions for Russia. And First of all, those solutions will be of educational nature. We create programs for members of the families, trying to educate them with those basic knowledge or some specific competences to be good family owners and responsible family business owners, how to pass values, how to create some, let's say, entrepreneurial families that will last for decades. The main topics we addressed in this research are who actually a Russian wealth possessor is, because this topic is pretty much mythologized, and there are a lot of surveys of the mass public that say that major businessmen are not trusted. But on the contrary, most of the Russian people want their children to be entrepreneurs. So it is quite confusing. How would you want your kid to become somebody you don't trust and you do not like? We also tried to find out what family values are and how they influence the decisions regarding business and wealth succession. We also wanted to know to which degree are they really into philanthropic and charitable activity, and are they satisfied with their service providers of different kinds. So let's have a look at very few slides. Actually, there is much more than I'm allowed to present today due to a short time frame. But this report was published about 4 days ago, and it is going to be. We are really rushing to translate it into English, so I will be pleased to send it to you as soon as it is ready. So we started with the 100 rubles lowest amount of wealth.
100 million.
100 million rubles. It was around $3 million US. When we started, and now it is about $1.5 million due to some economic distress. And we have several people from the Forbes top list, Russian Forbes, and actually it was not a matter of amount of wealth, because these issues are actually related to anyone who has something that he wants to pass on to the next generation, to his or her family, and practically these issues are actual for millions of Russians, because, as I say, there is no tradition of succession in Russia. There is no culture, and this culture is being created now. So,
I have a question about that. One definition of family firms is that children or relatives take top management positions within the company. So not ownership succession, but that you have family members being the top managers. Is there any?
Yes, we addressed this question. Yeah, we addressed. I will show you a little later what the attitude in this regard. So besides the main business, we see quite an overexposure in private equity, and this part of investments that is usually alternative investment, but it is quite traditional for Russia, which is real estate. Let's have a look why our respondents do business. Here with the blue blocks of diagram, you can see their own answers about them. So they do business because they're looking for personal development, to increasing quality of life, to create something new. But speaking about other peers, when we asked them, why do you think other Russian entrepreneurs and wealth possessors do business, they named financial gain and adore. So the same is, well, speaking about what kind of activities our respondents do not want to be a part of. Actually, the blue bars correspond to their own answers, and the yellow bars are related to their children. So practically, they give more freedom to their children in terms of choosing their career path. We can see that the planning horizons in terms of business are grouped from 1 to 5 years, and as we were conducting these interviews, which actually happened from August till November of 2014, we saw that the planning horizons were shrinking because of the political and economic instability in Russia, and because of the case happened with one of the Forbes participant, whose wealth shrinked by, if I'm not mistaken, 6 billion rubles within a month due to some circumstances, and this doesn't allow people to plan for a long time. We do not see such trends in terms of planning horizons related to family matters, which is yellow bars. And actually, only 1/3 currently has a detailed plan related to business. It is this part, the blue bar. And 70% only have general plans or even initial details or haven't thought about it yet. As for a plan related to wealth planning, a succession plan, it is more detailed, but still over 60% have it less than detailed. So actually, what kind of issues we see that the planning horizons are quite short and the succession plan is not developed, and we try to find out what issues really do not allow Russian wealth possessors to plan and to foresee what will happen with their wealth in future, and we grouped them into these four groups. We'll come back to them later. Let's have a look who will be the owner of business. Practically 1/2 will remain the owner within 5 to 10 years. But for many of them, this solution is temporary, and they just delay the decision, and they will come back to this issue in future. In this slide, the amount of people who are going to leave business to their family is extremely short. And when we asked our respondents, will family dynasties appear in Russia? Will major Russian businesses become entrepreneurial dynasties? Absolute majority said they will not. This will not happen, even if I personally will or will not be moving towards this. Some circumstances do not allow this to happen. As for, it is also interesting this other, which for somebody it is not relevant, or some people are already implementing some strategy, but the amount is quite low. As for business governments and relating management succession, the majority wants to shift towards professional management, and only a little more than 1/5 of our respondents responded they will involve the family into management. And there are many reasons to this. One major reason is professional inability of successors to work in business, or another issue is that it may raise conflicts in family which are to be avoided somehow, or it already raised conflicts in family and they're trying to avoid such in future. It is interesting, once again, in this other section there can be a combined strategy. For example, a professional management will be managing business till the kids are ready, or the management will be prepared and grown within the company, or there will be some family foundation behind the business management. It is also very important that up to 10% specified that their partner's position is important, and we'll have a look in more details later to this issue. We spoke about business. What will happen to wealth in total? It is very interesting that a little less than 1/2 is going to transfer everything to their families, and actually about 12 to 13% is going to leave lesser portion of wealth to the family. What will happen to the rest of the wealth? We'll speak about philanthropy later. So we're coming back to these reasons which do not allow them to plan for long term, and which makes us think they are going to be owners of their business for another 5 to 10 years without making some real actions towards transferring wealth and business to successors. And the first reason is actually the readiness of successors, and their readiness to become new owners. Yes, please.
Question I have is that what's the situation in inheritance tax when in Russia itself? Because that sometimes also dictates how things are transferred.
It is zero.
Oh, zero.
It is zero. We don't have inheritance tax. And actually, the legal mechanisms, let me show you here. We tried to find out what legal or tax mechanisms do not let or somehow influence their decisions. And it is quite a complicated slide, but just the greener the bar is, the better they know different instruments from offshore structures to different foreign trusts and so on. So practically half of our respondents think they know they know different kinds of instruments by 4 or 5. What is it? Like A or B grade. So good or very good, and inheritance tax is zero. So we think there are some external factors that do not allow. And the first factor, besides successors' readiness, is actually that the business was created with partners. 72% of businesses were created with partners, and they are still of partners' nature. Over 50% are of partners' nature. So when they will decide about who will be the future owners or managers, it is also important to check with the partner's position and to bear in mind that the partners are practically of the same age, and they have those issues on the agenda as well. Actually, they are ready to involve family members and children to business management, but the majority has not yet involved. We tried to formulate several possible structures, family structures, from the absolute isolation, where the family becomes a beneficiary of the business activity, of the wealth possessor, of the business owner, and in the most radical cases it even is excluded from absolutely all discussions regarding wealth, to a practically family business as we know it from the foreign literature definitions, and different cases of entrepreneurial families. I would like to mention here that sometimes for our respondents, both business and wealth is treated as an educational platform for successors. No matter which career path they will choose themselves, they are ready to attract them into business so they can gain those tacit knowledge or to gain competences, and then if they want, they can stay within the business. But leaving business as a family one is not some specific purpose for our respondents. So we spoke that practically all instruments are well known. We asked our participants of the survey what would they use if Russian legislation would incorporate such instrument as foreign trust or foreign family foundation, family fund, because we don't have such instruments in Russia. We actually only have will, which has quite a lot of disadvantages. For example, if some assets are transferred according to will, there is a 6 months term according to which the whole assets and cash is freezed, and practically within 6 months there is no owner to the business and no major decisions can be made. And even if successors are professional and competent, even if they can run business, within 6 months everything can happen, and it is not quite flexible. So we asked what would they use if a Russian family foundation as a legal instrument would appear in Russian legislation, and 71% said they would not use, no matter what benefits such instrument would provide. The major issue is low quality of governmental institutions and distrust. As one of our respondents mentioned, why would I earn another billion if I don't know what will happen to my first billion? So the matter of asset protection, of trust to the institutions, to the legal system, to the judicial system is a cornerstone for these decisions. So as we saw, the practically over 1/2 of total wealth will be not transferred to family, with 12 to 13% are not going to transfer the major part. What will happen to the remaining part?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how they're now already starting to get involved in charity and philanthropic work. So 100% of our respondents actually said that they're involved in some form of philanthropy or charity. But most of them don't donate the money directly, or they go and help themselves by volunteering. And very few actually use and trust non-profit organizations in Russia. So here we divided their kind of the motives that drive them to do that by so for instance, targeted assistance, the way they give, right? So they want to stay in control, and the reason for that is because there is a very low level of trust in Russia, and it still persists towards nonprofits. Because the fact that private wealth hasn't been, we haven't had private wealth for a very long time. So in the 90s, the nonprofits, they were used a lot by the newly rich and newly people that acquired their wealth. They were used dishonestly.
Mariana, maybe we should tell about what funds are there on the Russian market, what third sector actually consists of.
Well, I mean, it's very much like a third sector anywhere, right? So we have nonprofits, and most of the nonprofits are focused on children. That's a big topic in Russia, and the way our interviewees and these philanthropists they give to children. So the biggest, fattest nonprofits that are trusted are all directed at children.
And they're all mass fundraising.
Yeah, they're all mass fundraising. There are only a few private foundations in Russia. So the way they use philanthropy is not just for family growth, but also they feel that they can teach their children through it, and they can teach them certain values. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think here you wanted to direct our attention to the fact that they don't donate to a lot of governmentally related issues. So mass media, support of public initiatives.
And which is important here, and which really surprised us, is the second position, church and religion. Actually, there were people of different confessions and different religions, but we from those deep interviews we conducted, we found out that for some of them, church and religious institutions are usually or sometimes treated as more effective or more trusted managers of money than actually
professional non-profit organizations, which they just don't trust, which the mass public doesn't trust either. So it's quite an interesting phenomenon. So like Ruslan was saying, a lot of the wealth, they don't want to give it to their family or children because they see it as a burden. So they're already starting to include their family right now into their philanthropic activity and try and get into philanthropy because they just don't want to squander all that money on frivolous things. Which is why they say that there is desperate need for professional managers in this industry, because for them that would be something that could create trust. But at the same time, again, professional nonprofits are at the very bottom because there is big distrust towards the fact that they can ever be professional. So they're more leaning towards building family foundations with professional managers. So after the study, we saw that there was definitely a lot of need to carry on studies with the service providers. So in case of philanthropy, private foundations, and then look at single and multifamily offices and private banks. So that's the study that we're going to be doing this year. And the one with the one we just discussed is a biannual thing. So we're going to repeat that in 2016.
Yeah. There is much more inside the study, so if you have some specific questions, please feel free to ask. Maybe we have answers, maybe not. Yes, please.
How did you find the respondents? How did you get your sample?
How big is the sample? Well, there are 39 people, except those which were piloted. How do you say it?
Yes. So we did like a pilot questionnaire to start off with on a few respondents as well, just to see how they were responding, because it's a very, very sensitive topic. And in the beginning, we didn't even think we would be able to get that many respondents.
Yeah.
Because it's quite a closed community. And also we, the way the interview was planned is we would have a sociologist and an assistant who could transcribe everything that was being said, because we weren't sure that they were even ready to go on auto-recording, but they were really open. So out of everyone we interviewed, I think there was like 1 or 2 people who didn't want to be recorded.
And speaking about the base, actually those were entrepreneurs or wealth possessors from the entrepreneurial community of Skolkovo itself, as we have quite good backup by our founding partners, the private network of our head, which was PwC partner on private tax planning for quite a lot of time. And we are also backed by the UBS bank and several other banks, which also provided us access to the wealth possessors. But actually, it was harder than we expected. And now we see, till the at the end of the survey, we saw that they actually referred each other, because it was really actual for them, and the degree of their
interest for the topic, and to find out more about what's going on with their peers and where this whole area and community is moving. But regarding the selection, like academically, we set an entry margin to when the slide we showed at the very
100.
beginning. And they had to be an owner of a business.
They had
manage it in partnership. So it was we didn't set any age range, female, male. So
there were 2 females actually,
yes,
which was surprising.
So you don't know from the age of the business?
Well,
so you didn't use a threshold for the age of the business?
For the age of the business.
Yes, I think we. It was not about business. It was about person and individual behind the business. So
it's not about maturity of the entrepreneur.
No, it's not. And the maximum age of any business in Russia is 25 years. So we asked questions about when the first business was formed, when their first money were earned, and what kind of types of businesses they have, and speaking about the academic part and the methodology, we split the survey into a deep interview, a questionnaire which they filled themselves, and also we used the European
values survey to compare them to international entrepreneurs.
So we could compare it not only to international entrepreneurs, but also to Russian public in major. There were quite an interesting things here.
So, sorry, I have just another question.
Mm-hmm.
I jumped in on Albert's there. So I noticed on the philanthropy that less than 20% donated to small entrepreneurs.
Yep.
So is that not surprising?
Yeah.
I mean, surely entrepreneurs want to support other entrepreneurs. I mean, is there something to be read in that? Is it too hard to be an entrepreneur in the market, in that market? It's surprising to me, because I think one normally finds that entrepreneurs who've been there and have walked that path want to support other entrepreneurs. And is it maybe because they don't know how, or because they don't want to?
I think that's also partially because for them the concept of charity and philanthropy doesn't include something that can be profitable. So we actually had questions about social entrepreneurship and impact investing, and 100% they didn't know what it was. And when we would explain it to them, they said that that's actually good, that's not business, that's so I think maybe perhaps they do, but when we ask them in this questionnaire that
Yeah.
it could be, you know, the pitfall of the way the question was phrased, perhaps they do help, but they didn't see it as a philanthropic.
Is there a very large, small, and medium enterprise sector in Russia?
It is not.
Because that's where a lot of the family businesses are in.
Yeah, exactly.
Asia.
Well, as everywhere in the world.
Well,
But-
it will be part of my presentation tomorrow on microfinance, but we have one of the smallest rate of company ownership, enterprise ownership in the world. If I'm not mistaken, only 3% own an enterprise. We have one of the smallest rates of intention to start an enterprise, so it's really very, very thin. There is no exact estimation, but basically the number of working businesses is estimated at about not more than 2 million total enterprises. So the small entrepreneurship is very, very thin, actually.
And the amount of family business in that is even smaller, especially comparing to those 70 to 90% of GDP of all over the world generated by family business. The Russian part here is absolutely insignificant.
And the other question I had is, these businesses, are they privatized enterprise, or they were taking over a government, or are these like businesses they started?
Mostly businesses they started as.
Yes, well, if I understand your question correctly, we excluded some of them. I think they were privatized because significant part of wealth was made in the 90s during the privatization period. Of course, those people who were in Forbes in let's say the late 90s, they are practically not in the list now. But some of people we talked to, they were active in the 90s, so there might be wealth generated from privatization. But we excluded absolutely all governmental entrepreneurs who are somehow related to government, and we also excluded managers or CEOs who are wealth possessors but who do not own business, because there are some CEOs or CXOs which are quite wealthy. We excluded them from the base. Any other questions? Yes, please.
What is the average wealth for your 39 respondents?
We couldn't measure it, and we did not ask this question.
So that chart is, we basically asked them if this is 1 and 10 is the top 100 of Forbes, where would you place yourself?
Yeah.
And they had to just say a number.
We didn't ask us.
So we didn't ask them
No, we did not.
specific figures. No.
Intuitively, where do you think it is?
Well, we think it is in terms of banking classification. They are all ultra high net worth individuals, but I would not give you any digit because it would be just my personal opinion, and it's not academic. I would say ultra high net worth would start from here.
What's your definition of ultra high?
Well, let's say from 5 million investable assets, or 50 million investable assets.
50.
Yeah, 50.
$2 million US.
Yeah.
Is that the definition?
It's on the low side.
On low side. We measure on the, there are some banks that do have other classifications. We approach this classification as the medium.
Which kind of industry are they in, those 39 respondents?
We don't have,
here,
yeah.
right?
I think I will be able to give you this information later on.
Yeah, so I mean it's all in the study, but this is just a condensed.
Yeah.
So once it's all translated.
Any other questions?
You don't think there's a selection bias? 39 is a very small.
Yes, for
Well, I mean, you can in a way say it's our first study, and it's we're learning a lot on this study as well, right? It's just something we plan to do every other year with service providers in between. So, like Ruslan was saying, we had a lot of demand from their side, from their friends who recommended that they talk to us, and but by that time we had already closed the interviewing because we had to analyze the data.
Yeah.
So I think originally we aimed for 100.
Yeah, we did. And actually now we have a product, the report itself, which is of high interest not only by our respondents and their peers, but also by Russian private banks, which are interested how they can tune the product line, and especially those who are interested in philanthropic product line development, which are not many in Russia yet. And we were surprised how MBA students were interested in the topic. Some of them are second generation themselves. Some of them are entrepreneurs. The rest are going to do some business related to wealth management. So it's quite surprising their interest to this issue. And also we tried to make it as qualitative as possible, not
so
quantitative.
really
so we got deep into those interviews and tried to, speaking about the amount of our respondents, we did not base our results on qualitative results.
Yeah, so I mean, they're all really busy people, right? They're all big men, and some of them would say, I can only give you half an hour, come in and we'll see what happens, and then they'd sit there talking to us for 2 hours, just because for them it's such a live topic right now. It's on everyone's mind.
We had it planned for 50 to 60 minutes, and the absolute record was 3 hours 40 minutes when the respondent just delayed all his meetings. And there were cases when a respondent just grabbed his head and he was sitting like this for 5 minutes, and it appeared that he was sleeping already, but actually he was thinking so deeply about this and reflecting everything. So it appeared even more actual for them than we expected.
To your question about sampling, the big problem with business studies in Russia is most of the business is not public. It's very difficult to sample when we don't have information. Like, it's easy in the States, you go to any list of public companies and then do sample within this. In Russia, you basically go snowball because you don't have.
We have the same problem.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the state of academic research is on its very beginning. We have tens to hundreds academic papers on this issue.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, on all issues, private banking and succession planning and family business, etc. We have hundreds of academic papers. That's nothing, and we are really pioneering this thing.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of data in the study that we did that can go into a lot of papers that can be written on it, and hopefully give us ideas for 2016 as well.
We studied as broad as possible, narrowing it, for example, to the second generation survey, which is important for us in terms of developing. Here we go.
Yeah.
In terms of developing a next gen academy for second generation, which will be multinational, which will be modular, which will last for half a year, and so when we started that previous study, we had no ideas about what will happen in terms of research in 2015. Now we have a strong demand from all our stakeholders and our potential clients in terms of researching the rest and trying to compare, let's say, product line of service providers with the real actual demand.
Is there an estimate for the number of ultra high net worth individuals in Russia? Or not?
I think there is, and I think I've read it recently, but I don't remember. Yeah, I cannot tell you now. I will let you know later on. And one more thing about the research and this the ability to get that kind of information. I think for many of our respondents, we became that educational and neutral institution that doesn't want to sell any products. That we brought academic sociologists from top sociology schools in Russia. We were not going to sell another deposit after we conducted the research. I think it was the case of their
honesty and openness.
Honesty and
definitely.
openness, absolutely.
Because I mean, they've been kind of similar studies, but they were all done by organizations that are profit orientated, and some were done on larger businesses, but they just questioned anyone who would answer them, so CEOs or managers, and then they would get the general feel of the company's values, for instance. So we definitely went in as this kind of neutral agent that they opened up to, surprisingly. Mm-hmm. It was really inspiring.
Yeah. Any more questions?
No?
Come on.
Pass on to you.
Thank you very much.
We want to hear about Asia.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.